Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, very, very good question.
Yeah, this is a very good question.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question.
Oh, that's a great question.
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Zanger.
It's a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Really good question.
Gosh, this question to me, I hate this question.
That's a loaded question. But okay.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your support of Indie Agency News. And let's meet an indie agency, and we head out to Colorado with member number 100. That is your claim to fame. Standard practice, our 100th member. First of all, welcome, and thank you so much for your support. I mean, you get on LinkedIn, you get a little milestone-y thing, people are like, ooh, but that's kind of a big deal for us. So thank you so much for the support. How's everybody doing today?
Awesome.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Do you have any idea the elaborate planning we had to do to land at 100? I mean, we were canceling and then we were rescheduling, and the entire time the goal was to be 100. So I'm just glad we were able to make that happen.
As the partner in strategy and creative, you got the latter two set nicely. You creatively figured out strategically how to become number 100. There may be some sort of prize coming up for that. I don't know what that is exactly.
Well, now let's start. No pressure on us to be remarkable. I mean, we're 100. That may be all there is to us.
I think there's probably more. So let's get into it. How did the agency get started? Give us a little bit of the background of how you got started and how you got kicking along.
We'd love to say I think it was a vision, but really it came from, there was a pull rather than a push. We all, several of us worked together at a previous agency. Many of the former clients that we had and contacts we had reached out and asked us, would we be willing to work on their brands going forward. And so for a long time, the running joke was, if you work with us, you get to name the agency, because we didn't even have a name. We had a website, no name. And that eventually led us to realize, hey, we've got something here. 10 years of working together has turned us into a pretty formidable little unit. And so that's kind of how it got started.
Yeah, no, I like that. Myles, Renae, anything else to add on that?
Yeah, and we like Schiff said, after working together for 10 years, it was just an exciting opportunity. Previously we were working at Made together, and as that kind of came to a close, we just had a unique opportunity where we had a bunch of clients reaching out and asked if we would continue working with them and at a freelance basis, and then it just kind of came together over 6 months.
Yeah. Renae, I'm going to kick this one over to you. Every agency has a list of stuff that they do. And, I would say that a few things rise to the top. Obviously, there are some things that agencies might be a little bit stronger at. So, Renae, what would you say the agency is best known for? And what would you say are the agency's top 3 core strengths?
Oh, golly. I mean, we've got a lot of strengths, but we're certainly experts when it comes to strategy and creative. I think, though, it's probably better that have Schiff or Myles answer this. I'm the newest addition to the team here, only at standard practice for 2 months. And my sort of strength in particular is account services and working with clients. But the other fellas are really the masterminds behind the creative and the agent.
I wanted to throw you in the deep end. Boy, you just ruined it.
You know what, though? Renae loves the deep end. Renae, in the middle of a global pandemic, thinks, you know what? Now's a good time to move countries. I'm going to go somewhere where I have no idea how it works, even though no one knows how anything works. And so, yeah, we're lucky to have her because she's a person that thrives in chaos. And I think from a DNA perspective, couldn't have asked for a better head of account.
So continuing the question, what would you say the agency is best known for?
I think the typical things that you would say is probably what every agency says is brand strategy, creative design, account management. But I think like for us, the thing that we're best known for is kind of like not being known. We've kind of been this secret agency who's worked with all these giant brands like helped define Lyft when it was, when they still had their pink mustaches and defining ride sharing as they were coming out. Schiff helped with the launch of Coke Zero, and it was, one of Coke's best launches that they've ever done. And one of the things that we never did was seek press in any sort of way. We never entered in any award shows, and the idea behind that was that our work should speak for itself. But going off of word of mouth advertising for yourself as an agency is kind of a crazy way to do things. But at our previous agency, it lasted for 11 years. But we established ourselves as good creatives, and have since still working with some of our marquee brands, which was Under Armour and Clayton Homes and some others as well. But the people that we've worked with continue to try to lift us up, and we're doing a bunch of new stuff as well. For example, hey,
yeah. So no, that's great. That's
Okay.
great. So let's talk about why being an independent matters. Why is being independent important to this agency and to the team?
Well, I would say, can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Glad I called back in. Maybe that will work. I think the reason, it's funny because you say, well, why would you want to be independent? As if there's always the choice to not be. I'm sure that many independents might want to not be independent because that means they had the luxury of an acquisition. And so if you look at that and say, okay, well, what are the pluses and minuses? And I think, the obvious plus is autonomy, right? If you are independent, you get to chart your own course and you get to do what you want to do. What comes with that, though, is fear. You have to have an appetite for fear, right? Because unless you happen to be at, a ginormous institution of an independent that is always going to thrive, or at least can count on its next few years in business, you're among those that have to live with an existential threat of hey, will you be here? And really, no one really knows that. I mean, I think even some of the big shops have imploded over the years. And so, it's what is, A, do you want to do what you want to do? And B, does that mean enough to you that you are willing to live with a little bit of fear, And I think that's actually a healthy thing and a good thing, and it tends to drive the work. And it tends to, I think, urgency creates greatness.
Pressure creates diamonds, as they like to say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Myles, you talked a little bit about some of the work that you've done for brands like Lyft, Coca-Cola, Under Armour, et cetera, et cetera. What's the main reason a brand should work with the agency?
That's a good question. I don't know, Schiff, do you want to take that one? Let's see if
you're doing a throw over to me. I could tell you what it is. Yeah. Honestly, I don't mean to be cynical, but I think many times agencies and clients are not aligned on what they're even trying to do. And what I mean by that is you could look at, I think, the most common things that agencies are trying to do. On the one side, win awards, right? So, hey, if we create incredible things that other ad people like, that'll be great. We'll thrive. We'll win awards. That'll be a form of self-promotion. And so that's one. That's not generally aligned with what clients want, is literally helping their business, whether that's awareness or, selling something or some other tactic. They can line up those two things, but they also don't often line up. The second thing is, I think, going back to fear, agencies, and understandably, they just want to continue. What they're really there to do is to earn the right to have the next scope sent over. So it's, look, let's sell something and let's make sure that, in this case, the client likes it. And again, there you're losing what you're trying to do, because sometimes the client doesn't know exactly what it's going to take to get the job done. That's why they came to you in the first place. So we're not in the job of making things clients like necessarily. That's not the goal. And we're not in the business of making things other ad people like. We're in the business of helping businesses. And so that's the fundamental disconnect. Why should you work with standard practice? Because we do everything we can to put ourselves in your shoes. That means staring at the ceiling at night, wondering what happens if we don't hit the business objectives. And then we move heaven and earth to get that done, whatever it takes. And that may take something that's an award-winning piece of communication. It may take something that's a little bit more hardworking than that. It could be a combination of the two. So that's why you should work with us.
I like that. Nothing more. No notes on that one. Renae, you are new. And so this question, I think, number one, I want to understand why you decided that this was the agency you wanted to be at. So we're looking at this from a slightly different lens. So we're talking about talent right now. And usually that question is, why should talent be putting the agency on the list? From your perspective, Renae, what was the attraction?
You know, I think for me, it really echoes a lot of what Schiff was just saying about what the agency stands for. And really, it is about pushing the work forward, working with the clients and being partners. For me, before I moved to the US, I was always working on the client side. I worked with a lot of agencies, media agencies, and it wasn't until I moved over here that I actually started working on the agency side. So I learned a lot around what I thought was really important, and especially from an independent perspective, and not feeling like I was being sold to, or it was just about revenue for the agency. It's really about the work and being part of the team, and it's not the creatives and their ideas. It's really like, what's the best idea? Does it come from the client? Does it come from me, from the account team? It's like pushing things forward and really like feeling part of a team collaborating together is what drew me to these guys. And I just think that they like stand for everything that they say. It's not lip service by any means.
Yeah. Myles, why should talent be putting the agency on their list?
I think that's a great question. I think are an interesting crew. I think that we have a good amount of competition between teams, but also, once the idea is sold, it's very, very collaborative, and everyone tries to like make the idea and shepherd it to the end. Because, one of the oftentimes like coming up with the idea is not necessarily that's not necessarily like the hardest part of everything. I think understanding the strategy, positioning the brand, positioning the campaign, and then the ideas will flow out of that. But the collaboration after that, I think is really important. And we've done a really good job in the past of, especially with junior creatives, trying to mentor them as much as we possibly can so that they are a formidable crew, team, individual, after working a few years with us.
Yeah, that makes sense. The way we end this, I think this is my favorite question because it's a little bit of a thought experiment. Whether they're an existing client or not, who's a CMO or marketer that you want to say hello to? Just a little wave.
I want to say hello to somebody that, I don't know, maybe is obscure in the marketing world, but hey, that could be a feather in your cap as far as I'm concerned. But it's a guy named Jason Kello, Kello, and he's the director of marketing at a company called Ursa Major. And basically, and they're in Colorado, but they're not local. They're not even national. They're not even international. They're like interplanetary because they make rocket engines. And they come from, the founder comes from I believe SpaceX and Blue Origin, and they're the way that they, like, if you just go to their website, if you just look what they're doing, if you look at their nomenclature, it's like rock star meets rocket scientist. I mean, it's a very unlikely convergence of, the names of the engines they make. It's like the Hadley, the Ridley. I mean, you might as well be like on a cool site shopping for like a Scottish driving cap, like it's just, but meanwhile, they're doing something that I think needs strategy and branding. and it's like, hey, it's a dual use company. They make civilian and military stuff. Like, do I want to work on weapons of mass destruction? No. Do I want to work on something with the optimism of interstellar exploration or the idea that, that there's more out there to discover? Absolutely. And I just think that, I don't know, if you think about the movie, I think one of the most damaging scenes in any movie, and it's one of my favorite movies, is Good Will Hunting. At the end, when the character is given the protagonist is given the choice of working for the defense industrial complex or going to pursue love, in his beat up old sedan. He eventually turns down the high paying job and goes to pursue love. And like, I don't want the movie not to end with love, but I want it to end with him taking the defense job. To me, that's a pretty big cultural ask. Like, how do we make it so if the movie ended that way, you would be like, fuck yeah. And so,
right.
Anyway.
A Goodwill Hunting reference. How about them apples?
Yeah.
All right. Renae, you go next. Who's a marketer you want to say hi to?
So I'm a big skier, love the ski industry. And for a while I was working with the Mountain Collective, and I got a little bit of a girl crush on Jessica Jacoby from Aspen Skiing Company. Just thought she was such a badass and doing some really great stuff at that resort. Also, it's one of my favorite ski resorts in Colorado. And I think some strong leadership over there from a female marketing perspective, which was wonderful.
Okay, cool. Myles, you're the last word on this one.
Yeah. I've been really interested in the NA trend, the non-alcoholic sector. I've seen it kind of evolve. I play men's beer league hockey, and it's kind of one of those places you wouldn't really expect to see that like happen. But I want to say hi to Andrew Katz of Athletic Brewing. I think we're really good at defining these new categories and like tapping into that deeper undercurrent that's running through culture. And right now, everything that I've seen in the NA space is kind of leveraging these more surface level insights. And I want to get in there with somebody and, explore this whole new category and kind of define what it means for so many people, because it's like beyond just like some people wanting to be sober. It's beyond like more just like sober curious. I think this is more of a movement that people aren't really giving credit towards. So yeah, that's just one of the brands I would love to talk to.
Do you play at the Apex in Arvada? Is that where you play your beer league hockey?
No, right now I play at the Ice Center in Westminster.
In Westminster, okay. So
I'd like to throw in an enthusiastic seconding of Myles's choice, because beer is lost. And like, if anything's going to save it, maybe it's something as different as NA beer, and the rest of beer can draft off of whatever they do. But when I was growing up, beer was the best advertising, and now it's, I think, arguably the worst.
We can have a conversation about that, and you may be right on that assumption there, Schiff. All right, Myles, Renae, and Dave, thanks so much for joining us. Again, really appreciate your support, and we'll see who number 200 is, and then we'll get the two of you together. How's that sound? A little century party. I love it. But thanks so much, and really appreciate it, and we wish you the very best continuing forward.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thank you.